Hello everyone. Welcome to another Tuesday night Eventide stream. How's everybody doing here tonight? I am doing pretty good myself. The kind of hectic news cycle from the past few weeks has finally calmed down to the point where I can start getting back to work. So that's pretty exciting. I've been spending the past week working to get the text from Wolfren's Fate all kind of wrapped up. And I say that because I got the text back from the editor. Was in good shape, but there was a number of editor questions in there. So I had to go through and kind of solve some of those, resolve some of those, fix up some things, get things kind of ready to go. And from there, I was like, okay, well, it's time for me to start doing layout. Now, last week, we kind of talked a little bit about what the layout for something like this looks like. Part of this Patreon is showing you kind of some of the behind-the-scenes stuff. And I thought, you know what? This might be a good opportunity to kind of showcase what it's like to actually work in layout, to work in InDesign. So that's what we're going to do here tonight. I'm going to show you the very first steps of laying things out in InDesign. Now, I do want to put a caveat on this. I am self-taught, and I'm relatively new at this. So there's going to be things that, you know, honestly, if any of you are experts or pros at InDesign, you're going to be like, what are you doing? You're doing it wrong. That's quite possible. But I think I've got most of it down. I'm sure there's some organizational stuff I could be doing better. I'm sure I could be like organizing things into layers and making it easier for me to work with in the future. But frankly, right now, quick and dirty is what I've got the time for. As long as it looks good at the end, I don't care if the background of it isn't exactly the highest end professional. So that's kind of what we're doing. So I'm going to swap over to a different layout that I've set up so that we can look at this. And I'm just down here. Hi. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn on the Word document, because I want to show you what that is, because it's important to understand what the Word document looks like first before we start looking at the InDesign. So this is the Word document for Wolfren's Fate. Now, this is part one. So here we have the kind of introduction and setup stuff. You know, I'm not going to sit here and go through it piece by piece, but I am going to go through here and just scroll through it just to show you that there's already something done to this document that's called styling. I've already gone through and styled the document. So, you know what, here, let me do this just so that my camera and green screen aren't messing with it. Okay, there we go. What you're seeing here is the Word document, and there is styling done to this, in that each one of these kind of has a style associated with it, and you can see that. So there's read aloud text, there's body indent, there's, you know, body indent, there's a header organization. All of this is stuff you do in Word, because frankly, it's really easy to do in Word. All of these are predefined, or rather defined by my internal house style and made so that I can easily import this. Now, the reason why you kind of do it here is so that A, it's readable as a Word document, and B, when you transfer it over into InDesign, InDesign can take that and transform it into whatever style you need it to be. So in InDesign, I can then define H1 to be a certain thing. And I can use H1 in every document, but in the InDesign file, I can define H1 differently in each individual product so that I have one standard in Word, but when I take it over into InDesign, it becomes whatever it is for that particular project. Let's say, for example, in Hope Finder, my H1s are a font called Chiller. It looks kind of like blood spatter or blood ink drawn on a wall. It's very sloppy, but it's Chiller. That's what my H1s are. Whereas in here, my H1 is Berlin San Demi. So it's very different font based on its expression in InDesign. So you start here by just having a bunch of house styles, and then in InDesign, you then define what those house styles end up looking like. So all of this is work that's already happened. It's stuff I've been doing over the past year. Folks wonder, you know, hey, aren't you just writing it and then just laying it out and changing the style to be what it is? No, there's an entire process that is importing the styles and messing around with them till they look like what you want them to look like. Now, even then, that process isn't 100% done, because sometimes colors will carry over in ways that you don't want, and you want to change the colors. And in fact, for this document, I'm kind of doing that all over again. You'll notice there is a hierarchy here in the color of my H's, right? H0 is very dark and it gets lighter down to H3. In InDesign, I'll probably have something like that, but the color palette will be different because here it's all purples. But in InDesign, it's not going to be purple, so I may have to change that as we go along. I haven't done it yet, but changing colors globally is pretty simple. So, this is what a document looks like, and it even includes things like stat blocks, right? You get into haunts and stuff like that, and these are super complicated little style blocks. This is stat traits, this is stat H1, this is all stat hanging, these are stat hanging divider, which in InDesign will come in with a line underneath it. That's why this whole thing is purple, because these are all stat hanging divider, and you see that a couple times, and that's just how. So let me go ahead and close that out. So that's what this is. This is the Word document. So let me go ahead and make the Word document disappear. Nope, that was me. Sorry. Let me go make the Word document disappear. There, better. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring up InDesign. Now, for those of you who haven't used InDesign before, InDesign is part of the Adobe Creative Suite. I suppose I should probably camera up. We'll deal with a little bit of coloring because this is a much bigger screen. All right, so let me also move my. Okay, so this is InDesign. I'm on what's called a parent page. So the way InDesign works is at its very base level, you have parent pages, and these are like page templates. And you then take those templates, which set down like what's going on in the background and where the page number is and all that kind of stuff that doesn't change from page to page. It sets all that down in a format that then you can copy throughout the document and you don't have to set up each page individually, right? So in this page, this is kind of the base setup for this document. Now you'll notice I've got kind of a bunch of, let me see if I can scale this up just to get up to like 60. There we go. Perfect. So what you're seeing in here is a whole bunch of lines and white spaces and columns and stuff. Let me explain what you're seeing here. This is a template that actually came from Drive-Thru RPG. This is the template that their print-on-demand system or printer uses. And so it has their bleed and their margins and all that kind of stuff on it. So the red line here is the bleed. That is how far you would want any images that are supposed to be to the edge of the paper to actually go. That way, if the cut is off, you don't end up with like a white line down the end because you ran out of image. So you actually make the image bigger than the page. Then I guess that's the trim. Then you've got this interior line here. That's where all of your text needs to stay inside. And basically that's saying if your text is all inside here, it's going to be in no danger of being cut off. It's going to be nice and centered in the page. There's a gutter in the center here for 2 column. I could move all this around if I wanted not symmetrical columns, right? So I could have like a sidebar and then a wider piece of text. You could do that. You can move those things around. These are just guides too. These won't actually appear. None of this stuff is printing. This is all just invisible guidelines. And then you've got the gutter for a 2-page spread here. So I've already taken this and started applying some of my formatting to it. So let's go to the masters the page masters I'm actually using, which is Page Master A here. And this is the page master I'm actually playing around with. Now, this is quite a bit different. And I'm going to zoom in and show you kind of what's going on here. So this has these light blue lines on it. These light blue lines are the safe line from the cut. So these will make sure that if I put anything inside that, I'm definitely safe from the printer cutting off anything. So that's good. And let me go in and zoom in a bit more here. Go all the way to 100. And I've already gone in and laid in the background image. Now you're going to notice it's a little grainy. It's grainy because it doesn't load it at full resolution. It just gives you a working thing so that you can see it, but you don't have to worry about the high detail. You can always change it to show you the full image, but it makes the program work slower because it has to render the full image. So I've got the Eventide logo up here on the left side. Over on the right side, I've got a space where I can put a box in there that is then tied to the chapter list that'll automatically put the right chapter name in there. So if it goes chapter 1 introduction, chapter 2 the Lonely Tower, chapter 3, you know, the first floor, chapter 4 the second floor, it'll automatically say that, and all I have to do is put a tag in there. It's the same thing that's going down here with the page numbers. These aren't actually this is just it for showing you something that you can format, but that'll be where the page number is. So on these template pages, you can set up variable text things that are tied then to what page they're actually on. So that's that. You'll notice there isn't much else going on here. I laid down the image, I laid down the background. The great thing about the way InDesign does this is it means later I can go in and change this and the changes happen globally, because this is present in all the other pages. All right, so that's that. Now, I've already started kind of assembling this thing. It started out really basic though. So I actually didn't even start with one of these master pages. I just started with something with no formatting and formatted it custom, because the first page is the table of contents, right? So I didn't want any of the formatting. I don't want to bring any of this stuff. I don't want the page number. I don't want anything. I don't even want the logo, because it's all going to be custom. So instead, I just started out with a none page. That's a none template up here. And that leads us to the title page. And literally, I just started this yesterday, Sunday. So this is not done. This is not final. Nothing you see here is going to be final. And this stuff isn't even imported or anything. This is just me playing with the text and starting to rough things out. So I've got a big space down here for all my legal text that I have in a boilerplate somewhere. I'll import it at some point in time, but we're not there yet. I started to get the credits laid in here, and yes, there it is. You can, surprise, surprise, everybody. I just realized I put the name of my editor in there. That's right. K. Tessa Newton is my editor. Tessa has worked with us at Paizo a fair bit, and after her most recent contract with us ended, I just hired her. So she's been doing the editing for me and doing a great job. So everything here is coming together, right? There's not a lot here to worry about right now. This isn't done. You'll see here that, like, this font color I'm not going to want to keep. I'm going to have to change the color, because I want it to probably match the darker blue stuff. So I'll probably go with a gradient of blue instead of a gradient of purple. I just haven't decided what those are yet. So, and that's frankly a boring part of this that I don't want to subject any of you to, because it involves me sitting there playing around with colors and going, is that right? No, not quite. Maybe this. No, I want more. That feels not green enough. There's too much green in the blue or whatever. Right. So I don't want to do that. Okay, so that's that. Let's actually go to the first actual spread. Now you'll notice here, once you're on the master pages, you can literally just start scrolling through it, right? Now, I only have the 3 pages here, but let's say I wanted to get pages 3 and 4 in here. All I do is come up here to Master A and drag it in. Now I have pages 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you'll notice the numbers are automatically in there. Everything's automatically in there. So that's just how that works, right? You can then build your book very quickly by just dragging and dropping the pages in there. Now they're all blank. Nothing on them yet. But we'll fix that here in just a minute. Let me actually zoom this back out. I think, what did we say? 60% actually worked really well. You could see everything at 60. Let's go 60. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So here we are at 60%. This is what a spread looks like. So if you think about it, books always start with just a right-hand page, and then spread, 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 and then the last page will just be a left-hand page, right? That's how the inside of a book goes. So this currently just says introduction here. That's just a piece of placeholder text I threw in there just to see what it looked like. That may not be done yet. I may need to stretch that graphic if I realize that the names of the chapters are too big. So we'll see how that goes. But all right, here's what I got. Now, what I want to start doing is laying in the text. There's a bunch of different ways you can do this. Trying to remember if the guides form automatic boxes. Now, there's one way to find out. So what you're going to do is you're going to go into File and you're going to go to Place. That's what you're going to do. Now, that is going to take me into my Wolfren's Fate file. Here in the Layout file, I've already assembled all of my art files for the PDF. That includes all the maps, the covers, all the color pieces I ordered. Everything's in here. It occurs to me that you can't see. Okay, that's good to know. I just realized I was like, wait, I didn't queue in the file structure. That's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my Word document, the thing I showed you earlier, and I'm actually going to go and make sure that it's closed. And then I'm going to just open it. So here's a fun little thing. The text is in here. We're not seeing it because I had this box up in the corner click. So it's all in there right now. That's obviously not where I want it. So I'm going to go ahead and go Control Z, and that's going to bring it back. And here I now have it here. So now I can place it somewhere. And I think if I put it here... Yeah. So what happened is it formed a text box. So that text box is now taking up the guidelines that are set there. It'll fill to the guidelines. And I now have a text box. So you'll notice it has a little overflow here because, and I got a now I have an error message. And that is because the text is way bigger than this text box. Like, by a significant amount. So what I'm going to need to do is go ahead and click on this little plus sign down here, and that's going to grab the next chunk of it. And then I can put it in here. There. And all I'm doing is flowing the text. That's it. That's what I'm up to right now. So, no real mystery to it. This is... This is kind of how this works. And this is a bit of a manual thing. There might be a way to automate this, but I don't. So I'm dropping these things in here. Some of this stuff isn't coming in the way I want. There's definitely going to be some problems in here. I'm seeing lines that I shouldn't be seeing. All of these font choices, there might be something messed up with the style in here. But you'll notice a lot of the style did carry over. Now, there's some things in here that are special. Like this introducing wormbone bit. This is a sidebar, and I'm going to need to pull that out and make it into a sidebar. I'll show you how to do that here in a bit. I'll also show you how to place art. But from first blush, honestly, it's not that hard of a piece of software to use. So here's one thing that we're going to do. So I'm going to start by doing a couple special things here right from the get-go, because the next thing I'm going to do is, as I lay this out, I'm going to do what's called copy fitting. And in copy fit, you're basically going through the document and making it look good, making the boxes end at the right page. You'll notice here that there's one line of text just kind of floating up here. That's terrible. I wouldn't want that. I need to find a way to fix that. But before I can do that, I actually need to go in here and fix something else, because I don't need this here. That text was for the Word document. I don't need it here, so I can delete it. And deleting it here doesn't do anything to the Word document. To be clear. The Word document is an entirely separate thing. This just grabbed everything in it and imported it into this document. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to go back to full 100% zoom because I need to be able to see. And I'm going to zoom into this intro section. And there is this piece of text here. This piece of text is actually special because it's kind of a bit of flavorful introduction. And I want to give it some emphasis. So I'm going to copy it. I'm going to use Control X though, so I'm going to clip it right out of here. Good. What's going on? You are not quite. I see that. There we go. So sometimes these text boxes won't go all the way. Now you'll notice one thing I've already done is there is a setting in here. I've already set the grid so that the lines on things that are next to each other automatically line up. Because there is a text grid. Ooh, I have cartographer's quotes in here. I'm going to change those to straight quotes. Always something. Okay, so back to this. I'm going to go in here and select this, and I'm going to cut this out. So I now have that text on my clipboard. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a rectangle, and I'm going to put a rectangle up. Do that. And then Actually, sorry. Wrong box. I'm going to grab a rectangle frame. And I'm just going to grab about that. And then I'm going to set this content-wise to be text. And then I'm also going to go over here to properties. Is it in here? Sorry, folks. I'm trying to remember where the specific thing is that I... It's text wrap. That's what I want. So, I wanted to go in here and do text wraps and do text wrap around the box. So what I just did is I told InDesign, treat this box as a blocking entity and don't let anything flow into it. So that's what I've done. I could also do wrap around, and these are going to be really useful later when I'm putting in illustrations, right? Because this is how text will wrap around an illustration. We'll get to that. So I've now got this, and then I'm going to basically go in here, and I'm going to bring that text back. So the text is now in here. But this is special text, and I don't really need... If I go back here, and I go into properties, I'll see that this is, like... Remember all those styles from... Oh, it doesn't show them to you. Okay, so all of the styles from my Word document appear in this pull down. Unfortunately, it doesn't show you the pull down. It doesn't catch it here. So in this case, this is all just body plus. So one of the things you can do is you can just override individual pieces of text. You can then reset it back to the original by clearing all overrides, which is going to turn it right back into core body. Doesn't really matter to me because I'm going to actually change the font. Go down here to fonts, and I have a lot of fonts. But what I want to do is find one that feels a bit more like calligraphy, right? So I could do something like Baka here. I like Baka. Baka's a good font. And this is... But looking at it, it's a little hard to read. Even if I zoom in a bit more. I think the font's too hard to read for my purposes. So we're not going to do Baka. I don't think Baka. Bradley hand looks too fake. You're seeing all of my scripts. Endless bummer. No. I'm trying to remember which one I used. I've used one of these before for purpose. Definitely don't want to go with something too cursive. Minstrel might be. Oh, no, I remember what I used. I used Olakana. Okay, so here we have Olakana. Olakana is great. It's pretty readable. I'm going to go ahead and select all this text. Now, one thing it is doing here is automatically adjusting the spacing between lines. I'm going to go ahead and take this off automatic because the automatic is too much. Now, this text is also, you'll notice it jumped really big there from 14 to 15. Why did it jump like that? Because this still obeys the grid. Now, if I recall correctly, I can make this box ignore the grid. But I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know that text frame options might be in here. Ignore text wrap. Nope. That's not it. forget how to do it. Hold on just a second here, folks. Ah, okay. I found it! It is in the paragraph style. I can make it so that this bit of text ignores the grid. Paragraph rule. Indents and spacing. So I can do that, but understand that because I did that, that just messed up the whole document. I'll tell you why, and it's easy to undo. So I made that change to body. In making it to body, it applies to everything that is built off body. So I just literally undid snap to grid for the entire document. So let me go ahead and Control Z that. Align to grid, all lines. Okay, so let me just go ahead and undo that. What I should actually do is define this as a new style. Or I can go back here to basic paragraph and be like, this chunk doesn't have to care about. So I went back to basic paragraph, which is basically like no formatting. Hold on here. Weird. There we are. Okay, that'll do. Okay, so let me go ahead and select this now. And let me go ahead and change this from times back to Olicana. And then let me up the size to make it more legible. We'll look at 16 and see how that makes us feel. Let's go ahead and turn off hyphenation. Go ahead and center it. And that's looking pretty good. Now, there's a lot of other things I could do here. First of all, I can also go into this text box now that I've got a better sense of the size of it and shrink it up. And there we go. Now, there's a bunch of other things I could do to this text box as well. I could give it a fill. I could say it's yellow. That's terrible. I probably wouldn't do that. But I could easily make it a different color. I could just give it a shade too, right? It doesn't have to be this. It could be something like that, right? It could be just a tint. For now, I may leave it like that. I don't need to finesse every aspect of this right now. But this is kind of what we're doing. Now, there's a whole bunch of things I would probably go in here and adjust just a hair. But I could adjust it to put in a couple nudges so that it's not floating so close to the top. I could also just move the box a hair so that it's not like that. But I also have some text escaping the bounds of the box right now. There's a whole bunch of things I could easily do. Making it, yeah, the bronzy browny color isn't terrible. I could always come over here and oh, I probably have to define it. Yes. Okay. Well, suffice to say there is some... So I could do something like this, just to set it off. We'll leave it like that for now. I don't know that I'm actually that. I should also note that one of the things that's really important for what I'm doing is to make sure that I'm working in CMYK, not RGB. Those are two different color profiles, two different ways of defining colors. Printers, like professional printers, really like CMYK. RGB isn't used by them. Whereas most of your home stuff all uses RGB. So, as a note. So, I've gone in and I've done some work with that. This isn't final. I'm not probably going to call that final. Not even close to it. But it's a start. So, we've got that going on. We've got the text in here, obviously, now. This is starting to come together. Now, you'll notice that before I had one line bleeding over to the other side. I now have 3. 3 is kind of a lot. But I'm going to wager there might be a way that I can go in here and trim that up or get it to fit. Right? Get it so that all 3 of these lines are on this previous page. Now, there's a bunch of different ways you can do this. One of the easiest ways you can go in here is go in and change the spacing between the letters. So I just dropped it down from 0 to -10. Most people can't even tell that that happened. And I gained one of the lines back. So now I'm down to 2. This is kind of the trickier bits of copy fit. Now, there is a thing going on in here where these are getting 3 whole lines. There is a way I might be able to look at these and see about getting them less. So, the text size is 24. The spacing between is also 20, is auto at 24. So if I change that... doubt I'm going to get any space back. Actually, I do. That. So that's keeping my grid line, but it's making it so the automatic spacing was jumping it too far. If I jump it down to 24, it fits. Because I really should check and see what my grid spacing here is. I believe that's in preference. Remember what my grid spacing is. So let's see here. My grid increment is 14 points. So that means every 14 points, I get a grid line from top of page. Or rather, starting from half an inch from top of page, which is where my bleed is. So every 14 points. That means this text, which is 11, right, is 11 over here. That's the font size, 11 points. And the automatic spacing says 13.2. The reason why that works is because it's not above 14. If I change this to, say, be 18, I skip an entire line. But if I change it to 14, it goes back to where it was. And if I go back to auto, which drops down to 13.2, nothing changes. Because it's less than the spacing that was there. If that makes sense. I'm explaining a very technical part of this about the grid. So, the grid lining right now is set to 13.2. At some point in time, I may go in here to body. And go into here, go into paragraph styles, open up body, go into basic character format, and change the leading to 14. Why? So that now it's set automatically. Now all of these text lines are going to come in the right. Now, likewise, I can go into H1 here, and you'll notice I had it at 24. It doesn't really have to be at 24. It just has to be less than 28. So if I go into H1... and I go in here, and I change this to 28. So 28 being double 24 means that now in the entire rest of my document, all of these H1s are going to take up basically 2 lines. And I can actually do that. There we go. Okay. So, there is going to be an interesting thing that happens. Let's see if I've got an H2 in here. I do have an H2. Now, the H2 is based off the H1, so it automatically changed that to be 28 as well. Now, you'll notice, you come over here, you can see these two side by side. This is an H1, this is an H2. They're both sitting at the exact same spot because they both are using up basically 2 lines worth of space. Think about it like making an invisible grid line on gridded paper, and you just stick to it. All right, I've belabored the point on that enough. I think what that's done, in fact, it's done exactly that. This whole page now fits. The entire history section, the setup section, all fits, all in there correctly. Now I go in here over into the adventure overview, and this is all getting started. Now I've got another text box down here that should be a sidebar, but instead of doing that, because I've already showed it to you and we're running out of time, I think what we're going to do is we're going to place an image. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to pull up a box, and I'm just going to create a box in the middle of my text that is roughly the size of what I think the image is. Now you can hardly see it in here. That's okay. I'm going to go into File, Place Again, and I'm going to go into my art files here, and I'm going to find a piece of art to put in here. And for now, I'm just going to put this piece of art in here. I don't think this is going to be the final piece of art. But I've got my little wizard. He just popped in. Hey there, little wizard. Now I need to go down here to frame fitting and get him to fit the fit content proportionally. And I made that pretty close. So there he is. Now, like I said, you'll notice he's a little grainy. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to go in and change his graphic or his display performance to high quality so that he looks real. There he is. He's real nice. Okay. So, we've got a wizard. Now, what I'm going to want to do is go into... I think I know what's going on. Let me check a thing. On just folks. I need to open this in Photoshop. Second. I don't think the TIFF has preserved transparency set, so I need to go in transparency. Okay, so gone in and fix that. I go back here to InDesign. This has now a little yellow sign in it because it got updated. Because I just updated it in Photoshop. So if I Alt-click it, I open up the link panel, and then I can relay. Rather, I don't... Update link. There we go. Okay, so there. Perfect. Sorry, I didn't realize that file wasn't quite prepared. I didn't have the transparency turned on. So I needed to go back, turn on the transparency, save it again, and here he is. Now, you'll notice immediately, yeah, that's not working. There's something wrong there. So I need to go in here. It's in Object. So in Object, you can go down to Clipping Path and open up the Clipping Path menu. You don't get to see this, unfortunately. I'm going to click Detect Edges. And there we go. I have now formed an automatic clipping path around this guy's edges. This text wrap is still a problem, so I'm going to go into text wrap around the object shape. And there we go. So you'll notice automatically that all of the text popped out from outside of him. But it's still not right, because there's text between the staff, right? You know, there's text here and text here. So there are some options here I get to play around with about the text wrap. Remember where they are. Oh, they are. Here, text wrap. Oh, it really irritates me that you guys can't see it. There is a text wrap box here that allows me to mess with it. There is wrap to both left and right sides. There is a whole bunch of things in here that, like, I could just say, you know what, just wrap to the left side. Everything has to be to the left. I could say everything has to be to the right. But I probably need to do away from spine? Towards spine? Left and right. Okay. So I'm going to go back to left and right here. And the things that's tricky right now is that I just have text where it's not supposed to. Now, I wouldn't actually place this figure right here because, frankly, it's not a very good place for it. So I'm going to move it. Nope. I'm going to move my little wizard. We're just going to go ahead and shift him right over here. And I don't mind if he kind of leaves the text bound, right? That's fine. I'm going to change his... the head. And close. Okay. So he's coming in. He's starting to get there. I think he might be a little big, so I'm going to go ahead and bring the text box size down a bit. But you'll notice that doesn't change him. I got to get him to proportionally fit in there again. So we'll scale him down a little. And we're going to go ahead and move him over a bit more. I'm going to bring him up a bit because I don't want him leaving the blue lines too much. And what I can just do now is I can go in and select the piece of art here. And if I zoom in, I can actually see these little handles. These handles are marking where the trim lines are. And I can kind of cheat. And by cheat, I mean I can go down here, grab one of these, move it over here. This one, and move it up here. Now it thinks all of this is part of the image and won't put anything back there. And I can do the same thing up here. And the same thing. Oh. I am absolutely positively sure there is a better way to do this than the way I do it. That is the watch me cheat the system way. But that is how that works. So if I go in here now and I look at this text, one other thing I can also do is go back into text wrap. I can actually put a little bit of padding on this text wrap. So that the text isn't running right up to the edge of my poor wizard here. It occurs to me I may have needed to do so. Okay. So I just needed to set it before I went in. Over there. And there we go. Okay. So now if I deselect him and kind of move over, I can now see how that all... Let me go back out to my 60 zoom. Oh. And there we go. So just to give you a sense of what's going on here, all I've done is laid out the pages, placed a piece of art that isn't exactly... I'm not in love with that placement, to be clear. I would finesse it. That's not a great place to put that piece of art, just because of the way the piece of art is formatted. It's kind of a clumsy... I actually think he might work better closer to the spine on the inside edge. I don't know. We'll worry about it at a different time. I wanted to give you a sense of how this works. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, because this is the actual layout. I'll probably come in and fix things and take around with things. But this is the actual layout. And then, honestly, we can go in here and we can export it as a PDF. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick and dirty save of this. We're going to export it. Yeah, those settings are fine. There's overset text, no joke. There's 60 page or 30 pages of overset text. So I've gone and went ahead and created just a real sloppy, real quick PDF of this. I'm going to go ahead and open that PDF up. And I'm going to go ahead and bring that over here. So let me go ahead and grab the window capture now of the PDF. There it is. So this is the PDF we just created, and you'll notice immediately a bunch of the text box and stuff like that automatically disappeared. So you're not seeing any of the guidelines or anything anymore. All that stuff vanishes. And it also does trim, right? So that it cut off everything beyond the edge of the page. And if we come down here, here's the text box we made. And there's the image we placed, right? So there it all is. That's basically it. There's a lot more stuff to do. There's a lot more to it than that. But that's the start of it. That's how you kind of get it going and you start playing around with text and fonts and colors. I have a ton of work that still needs to go into this. I've probably got, I would say probably 10 to 15 hours just of layout work, of going through and flowing the text and editing it. Some of it will get faster as I go along. Once I kind of decide on some font colors and stuff, once I decide on a few other leading things to go with this final layout, I actually think it's going to come together really nicely, really quite quickly. So there we go. Go ahead and get rid of that. We're going to go ahead and come back over here, folks. That's it. There you go. That's how the layout's starting. You saw it here first. That was me flowing the text for the first time on this. That is the actual layout starting here on Wolfren's Fate Part 1. I'm so glad that you could all stop by and hang out with me and see it get started. I hope that I wasn't too perplexing and confusing with my InDesign descriptions. Admittedly, folks, I'm not an expert. I'm all self-taught on this. I've learned quite a few tricks over the past year or so, and it is coming together rather nicely. I hope you are as excited about it as I am. Folks, I want to thank you all for watching. I have another stream here starting up in just about 10 minutes. Yeah, folks, if you haven't noticed, by the way, I have been doing Pathfinder 2 tutorial streams. We've been doing those on Sunday and then loading them up on YouTube. They've been doing fantastically well for me on YouTube. They are by far the most popular thing I've ever put on my YouTube channel. So, that combined with a whole bunch of incredible social media opportunities means that this has been one hell of a couple of weeks. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thank you for your support. That's how stuff like this happens. Stuff like this happens because of you, because of your support. Thank you for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.